Hello everyone. Welcome to a special episode of Bible Q&A. Today, we're going to discuss the 4 ways Satan can tempt Christians. Without further ado, let's get started. Number 1. Peer pressure. Everyone tells their kids to avoid being pressured by their peers to do bad things. We advise them to choose good friends so that bad friends don't end up influencing them. St. Paul said, "Be not deceived. Evil communications corrupt good manners." 1 Corinthians chapter 15, verse 33. Birds of a feather flock together all the way to their destination, wherever that might be. However, adults are peer pressured all the time. Lobbyists pressure politicians to favor the profits of corporations over consumer safety. Political parties pressure citizens to hate their political opponents. Companies pressure workers to work harder and harder, and those that refuse get fired. Even subordinates can peer pressure their leaders if these leaders are interested in their popularity. In 1 Samuel chapter 13, verse 9, Saul offered a burnt offering before Samuel arrived, and he told Samuel in verse 11 that he did so because his soldiers were starting to abandon him. You'd think he could have just ordered them to stay, but with the Philistines surrounding them, he simply didn't have as much authority over them as before. Also, the Israelites pressured Moses to legalize divorce, according to Matthew chapter 19, verses 7 to 8. Jesus revealed that it was never Moses' intention to do so. The ideal was that people would stay married for life, according to Genesis chapter 1, verse 27. But with all the crises that he was facing, like Korah's rebellion and the affair of the 12 spies, this simply wasn't an issue he was willing to press on. He wanted to keep them as loyal as possible, and if legalizing divorce would do that, then so be it. Finally, in Mark chapter 15, verse 15, Pilate sent Jesus to be hanged not because he thought he was guilty, but because he wanted to please the people. They were about to riot if Christ wasn't executed, as implied by Matthew chapter 27, verse 24. He feared that if the Roman authorities discovered there was unrest under his leadership, they would end his governorship and he would lose his political authority. The common thread between these 3 stories is that the leaders wanted to maintain their popularity. They wanted their subjects to respect them. And even though most of us aren't leaders, we'd like our friends to respect us too. But that's not the point of friendship. Friends are simply our companions in life, helping us to feel less lonely. We shouldn't need to please them or give in to their demands for them to stay in our lives. They should live their lives and we should live ours, according to 2 Corinthians chapter 6, verse 14. Be ye not unequally yoked together with unbelievers. For what fellowship hath righteousness with unrighteousness, and what communion hath light with darkness? Number 2. Lust. Lust can actually come in many different forms. For example, some people are lustful for drinks, and they eventually become alcoholics, even at the risk of their own health. King Solomon said, "Who hath woe? Who hath sorrow? Who hath contentions? Who hath babbling? Who hath wounds without cause? Who hath redness of eyes? They that tarry long at the wine, they that go to seek mixed wine." Proverbs chapter 23, verses 29 to 30. Others are lustful for luxury items, or food, or power. However, the most common form of lust is sexual lust. Some women can be excessively lustful, but the principal lustful demographic is men. They are the ones who go to prostitutes, like Judah in Genesis chapter 38 and Samson in Judges chapter 16, verses 1 to 3. They are the principal perpetrators of sexual violence, like the prince of Shechem in Genesis chapter 34 and Amnon in 2 Samuel chapter 13. And even though adultery happens among both genders, there's a reason why the classic cliché is an office worker sleeping with his secretary. I'd argue that a man's second biggest weakness, besides anger, is his inability to leave unmarried or married women alone. And yet, it is also the easiest thing to overcome. All you have to do is reflect on what you are doing to the woman you are sleeping with. Let's take a look at David's family, for instance. David's adultery with Bathsheba led to the death of an innocent man in 2 Samuel chapter 11, verse 17, and started a civil war. Amnon's rape of Tamar destroyed her self-esteem and led to his own death later on. What did they gain from all this? A one-night stand. That's it. Nowadays, adultery and rape don't cause kingdoms to fall, but they still tear apart families and cause untold suffering. And finally, the men are paying the price as well, with the arrival of social media. Some innocent men will be caught in the crossfire, as it happens with every crime, but now lustful people have to think about the consequences of their actions, when it is easier than ever before for them to come to light. Number 3. Desire for power. Nowadays, fewer and fewer of us want political power, because it isn't worth the public scrutiny and the risk of scandals. But back in ancient times, people would do anything to rise up the ranks. Jeroboam created a whole new religion to cement his grip on power in 1 Kings chapter 12 verses 26 to 33. Korah and his companions attempted to overthrow Moses in Numbers chapter 16. Abimelech killed all of his brothers and many innocent civilians just so he could rule some random town in Judges chapter 9. Even up to the 20th century, the allure of power caused people to do terrible things to others. Germans were willing to sell out Jews and other vulnerable minorities to the Nazis just so they could please Hitler. Imperial Japanese soldiers competed with one another to see who could commit more atrocities, as if murder and rape were merely ways to get a promotion at work. If an ideology is set up that rewards people with power for oppressing others, you better believe the citizens of that country will start turning on one another. Thankfully, most of us don't live under fascist regimes, but there are still little temptations here and there that might convince us to put other people down at all costs. Don't belittle others so you can get the promotion that they deserve. Don't use your authority as a parent or a teacher or a friend to use or worse abuse someone who trusts you. As problematic as greed is, money can at least buy you stuff that you might like. There is absolutely no benefit to power whatsoever unless you use it to make others more powerful than you. As Jesus said, "Even as the Son of Man came not to be ministered unto, but to minister, and to give his life a ransom for many." Matthew chapter 20, verse 28. Number 4. Money. There's a reason why St. Paul said, "For the love of money is the root of all evil, which while some coveted after, they have erred from the faith, and pierced themselves through with many sorrows." 1 Timothy chapter 6, verse 10. Just watch a documentary about any large corporation to see how the search for more profits leads people to do terrible things to vulnerable communities. One biblical example of this is Pharaoh. Even after Egypt was ravaged by the 12 plagues in Exodus chapter 12, he still wanted to chase after the Israelites so they could continue building his empire. And it was told the king of Egypt that the people fled, and the heart of Pharaoh and of his servants was turned against the people. And they said, "Why have we done this, that we have let Israel go from serving us?" Exodus chapter 14, verse 5. It didn't matter that the Egyptians didn't want to be their masters anymore. Pharaoh desired that free labor, at whatever cost. Another example is Nehemiah chapter 5, and an important one, because it shows how an oppressive system can be built up without anyone realizing it. When a famine arrived, according to verse 3, certain Israelites started mortgaging their lands to their countrymen to pay for food from other lands. It was unfortunate, but this had happened before, in Genesis chapter 41, verses 54 to 57. Everyone had to buy food from Egypt then because there was famine everywhere else. The problem, though, was that the Israelites in Nehemiah's time had to pay interest on those mortgages. They also had to pay taxes to King Artaxerxes. So they started selling their children as slaves to pay off the debt they had taken on to pay their taxes. And if they wanted to see their children again, they had to wait until the other debts on their land and properties were paid off. They were trapped in a vicious debt cycle. Naturally, Nehemiah was furious. After everything he and the other nobles had done to buy them back from slavery abroad, some Israelites were taking advantage of the famine to enslave their countrymen. He asked all the creditors to give back the properties they held and the interest they were paid. And even though he was innocent of all this, he forgoed the salary that was paid to him as the governor, because of how heavy the tax was on the people. How many politicians are willing to do that without having amassed wealth previously? The lesson then is that we should never let money control our dealings with other people. Don't work jobs that will take you away from your family. Don't be so harsh on being paid back your money, like the unforgiving servant in Matthew chapter 18, verses 28 to 30. Don't break laws just to make extra cash. Instead, use the income you already have to help others and do good deeds. After his famous verse, Paul advised, "Charge them that are rich in this world, that they be not high-minded, nor trust in uncertain riches, but in the living God, who giveth us richly all things to enjoy. That they do good, that they be rich in good works, ready to distribute, willing to communicate." 1 Timothy chapter 6, verses 17 to 18. There's a common thread between these 4 points as well. All of them are based on making quick, rash decisions. I have to get this job now or else. I have to sabotage this person to maintain my position in the company or he'll take it from me. If I don't sleep with this woman now, I'll regret it for years. Compare this attitude to that of Christ when he was tempted in Matthew chapter 4. Satan told Jesus, "You need to eat now," but Christ thought God would feed me eventually, and he did. Satan then told him, "You need to find out whether God will be there for you or not," and Christ thought, "God's always there for me," according to John chapter 11, verse 42. And even if he won't be, I don't need to test him right now to find out. I'll know eventually. Finally, Satan told him, "Look at all these kingdoms. You can have them right now if you just bow down and worship me." But Jesus said, "So? God said he'd get rid of all these kingdoms anyway, and I'll still rule the world. As it was said in the Psalms, the Lord said unto my Lord, Sit thou at my right hand until I make thine enemies thy footstool." Psalms chapter 110, verse 1. See also John chapter 18, verse 36. In the end, all Jesus had to do was wait, and he'd get all of the stuff Satan was offering anyway. Thus, if Christians want to successfully navigate temptations, they also need to study the Bible to form a battle plan. As it was said in Proverbs, "A prudent man foreseeth the evil, and hideth himself, but the simple pass on, and are punished." Satan, or anyone else for that matter, can't tempt you if you know that they're coming for you beforehand, according to 2 Corinthians chapter 2, verse 11. And that is where I'm going to stop with this Bible Q&A. If you want more special videos like this one, be sure to tell us in the comments section. And if you liked it, be sure to hit like and subscribe. Thank you for listening.